श्री बनारसीदास चांदीवाला सेवा स्मारक ट्रस्ट सोसाइटी. Shri Banarsidas Chandiwala Seva Smarak Trust Society was founded by Shri Brij Krishan Chandiwala ji, who was a freedom fighter and a close associate of Mahatma Gandhi.
Brij Krishan ji was born in the year 1900 in a highly regarded Chandiwala family who were silver traders in Chandni Chowk in Delhi.
He was educated at St. Stephen's College, Delhi, where he happened to meet Bapu for the first time in 1918. His meeting with Bapu deeply influenced Brij Krishan ji, and he became his ardent follower and a close associate. Brij Krishan ji took to meager meals and to wearing khadi under Gandhiji's influence. He would not use any mattress but would sleep on rugs. He used to spin khadi on spinning wheel and would wear clothes made from that yarn only.
Though a prolific writer, but he was frugal with the usage of paper and would make sure to use it till its last bit.
While in Delhi, Gandhiji used to often stay at Chandiwala's Haveli at Katra Khushhal Rai.
He was also there in 1924, where he observed his 21-day long fast for communal harmony.
During the 1930s, Brij Krishan ji helped organize the Stone Breakers of Delhi into a union, took up cases of violation of their rights with the Delhi administrators and in courts of law to ensure better compliance of government regulations regarding their work and to get compensation for them. Though he was asked by Bapu not to participate in Salt March in 1930, but he quit eating sugar and salt after that and did not do so for more than 50 years until mandated by his doctors. Brij Krishan ji was with Gandhiji on the day of his assassination, and it was he who prepared Gandhiji's body for cremation.
Brij Krishan ji's devotion for Bapu had no bounds. He authored a 3-volume book, Gandhi Ji Ki Delhi Diary, which chronicles Gandhi's day in Delhi. The other notable book that he authored in Hindi was titled Bapu Ke Charnon Mein, which was later translated into English as At the Feet of Bapu.
He was affectionately called as Bhaiji by his associates. Taking the responsibility of providing human service in education post-independence, Brij Krishan ji founded Shri Banarsidas Chandiwala Seva Smarak Trust Society in 1952 in the memory of his father, late Shri Banarsidas Chandiwala.
Post-independence, women education was a big challenge and of utmost significance. And Shri Brij Krishan ji addressed this issue by setting up Janki Devi Memorial College in the memory of his mother, Srimati Janki Devi ji. It was started in barracks at Rouse Avenue and was inaugurated by Mrs. Indira Gandhi in 1959.
The foundation stone for the present building was laid at an off-North campus site in central Delhi at Sir Gangaram Hospital Marg to cater Central and West Delhi population by Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru in 1960. This followed by laying of the foundation stone for the residential quarters by the 4th President of India, Shri V.V. Giri.
Janki Devi Memorial College is one of the prominent seats of women education in Delhi and is an autonomous institution affiliated to Delhi University.
The other educational institute for girls, run by the Trust, is Janki Devi Vocational Center that equips the girls with vocational skills and paves the way towards their economic independence. Rich Krishanji was honored with Padma Shri in 1963 for his devotion and contributions in the field of social services. Shri Banarsidas Chandiwala Seva Smarak Trust Society runs 4 professional colleges affiliated to Guru Gobind Singh Indraprasth University.
Banarsidas Chandiwala Institute of Physiotherapy is approved by Delhi Council of Physiotherapy and Occupational Therapy, Government of NCT Delhi, and is categorized as Grade A+ by SFRC.
Banarsidas Chandiwala Institute of Information Technology and Banarsidas Chandiwala Institute of Professional Studies Dwarka are both AICTE approved institutes also and categorized as Grade A+ and Grade A by SFRC respectively.
Banarsidas Chandiwala Institute of Hotel Management and Catering Technology. It is an AICTE approved and NAC accredited institute and also categorized as Grade A+ by SFRC.
Furthering the other mission, health, the Trust Society is running multi-speciality hospitals, dispensaries, and healthcare centers and offering varied services through Banarsidas Chandiwala Institute of Medical Sciences and Eye Hospital at Kalkaji, New Delhi. Banarsidas Chandiwala Eye and Dental Care Center, Jama Masjid. And Banarsidas Chandiwala Eye Hospital in Motihari, Bihar.
Digital transformation is having a wide-ranging impact on the business environment world over, creating both opportunities and challenges. Interrelated trends such as e-commerce, big data, machine learning, artificial intelligence, and the Internet of Things could lead to a large productivity gains for the economy. To make the best of these changes, it is necessary to understand the impact of this transformation and plan ahead, so that the right policies and institutions are in place. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the BCIPS fraternity, we extend a very warm welcome to all present here. Today, we have amongst us eminent personalities from corporate and academia to grace the occasion of our 9th National Conference on Digital Transformation, Progressive Business Management, Entrepreneurship, and Social Security.
Digital transformations have gained paramount importance in an emerging economy like India. Such innovations contribute in production of new goods and services, thereby leading to more employment generation and higher levels of economic output. Technology has not only affected the existing businesses but has also ignited the transition in entrepreneurship. Technology usage has made new age entrepreneurs more adaptive, agile, and competitive. Modern day entrepreneurs are optimizing the new age technology for exploring untapped opportunities in global markets. Technology has also affected the individual's social life and their connection with the society at large. Artificial intelligence, big data, and blockchain technologies have significantly influenced many aspects of social security. It also has the potential to augment social security by increasing the effectiveness of public distribution system, timely communication with the key public service agencies, implementing and monitoring medical care system, along with handling the issues of data privacy and security. In such a scenario, the theme of our conference becomes extremely relevant. To commence the national conference on an auspicious note, let us invoke the blessings of Ma Saraswati.
या कुन्देन्दुतुषारहार धवला या शुभ्रवस्त्रामृता या वीणाभरदण्डमण्डितकरा या श्वेतपद्मासना या ब्रह्माच्युत शङ्कर प्रभृतिभिः देवैः सदा वन्दिता सा मां पातु सरस्वती भगवती निःशेषजाड्यापहा
Before beginning with today's proceedings, we would like to introduce our esteemed dignitaries. I would now like to take this opportunity to welcome our chief guest for the day, Professor Vinita Gupta. Ma'am is a visionary and strategic senior level academic leader with a natural propensity for high performance and is currently the Vice Chancellor at Saito University College, Malaysia. As a chartered accountant who is also academically qualified with a doctorate and coupled with industry experience, her views are both forward-thinking and unconventional. Her years of immersion in service learning and community engagement, focusing on diversity and inclusion, mainly in Southeast Asia, has given her an innate ability to engage with all key stakeholders. She has produced various impact reports for social enterprises and industry partners throughout the region and is currently working on projects in Myanmar and West Africa. Her career to date features various corporate engagements, research grants, awards, and publications which reflect her professional credibility. Committed to continuous learning and self-evaluation, she has received numerous awards for her community engagement and service leadership work in the region. She is also a recipient of the Women Leadership Achievement Award and Humanitarian Awards. She also serves as an external examiner and validator for various universities in the UK, India, and Australia. Currently, she is a visiting professor at the Myanmar Human Resource Institute. We welcome you, ma'am. It's an absolute honor to have you with us today.
Introducing you to our guest of honor, Dr. Alok Chaudhary. Dr. Chaudhary is a professor of supply chain management. He co-leads Loughborough's Logistics and Supply Chain Analytics Research Group. He was the co-director of undergraduate studies and the director of Management Sciences program at Loughborough. Sir focuses on interdisciplinary and industry-driven research to investigate the environmental and social sustainability of logistics and supply chain industry. He has collaborated on various research projects funded by the European Commission
European Union, ESRC DTP, EPSRC, British Council, and other sources for PhD studentships. He has co-authored over 100 research publications. Thank you for your gracious presence, sir.
We would now like to introduce our guest of honor, Ms. Jacqueline Annett, Director, Strategic Relationships and Communications at Sailor Academy, Washington. MAM focuses on helping organizations and higher education institutions leverage Sailor Academy resources for the benefit of their employees, students, and constituents. To accomplish this, she finds, develops, and stewards workforce-based and higher education institutional partnerships. She also develops content marketing articles showcasing Sailor Academy's constituencies to demonstrate relationship potential to prospective partners. Additionally, she represents Sailor Academy at external events and meetings and also oversees the execution of additional projects, reporting, and events. We would like to inform the audience that due to some professional urgency, Ma'am will not be able to join us in person, but she has been gracious to share her thoughts with us through a virtual address that we would be playing for you.
We would now like to welcome our esteemed guest, Dr. Christopher Abraham, CEO and Head of Dubai Campus, SB Jain School of Global Management, Dubai, UAE. Sir focuses on academic leadership and management, institutional and business development. As the head of the institution, he plays a strategic role in building and nurturing the relationships with all key stakeholders. Also, as a member of the senior management team and the academic board, he plays a critical role in all major decisions of the institution. We welcome you, sir. It's an honor to have you with us.
We would now like to take this opportunity to welcome our mentor, guide, and also the Vice Chairman of Shri Banarsi Das Chandiwala Seva Smarak Trust Society, Mr. Vipul Gupta. Sir has more than 2 decades of rich industry experience and has been associated with various organizations of repute. He has numerous accomplishments in the domains of strategic agreements, overseeing consignments, logistics, export, and trainings. We are honored to have you today with us, sir. May I now call upon our director, Dr. Aparna Mishra, to deliver the welcome address. Please, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Tanushree. The basic economic resource, the means of production, is no longer capital, nor natural resources, nor the laborer. It is and will always be the knowledge. By Peter Drucker, the father of business studies. Honorable Vice Chairman, sir, respected dignitaries, esteemed delegates coming from different parts of the globe, my fellow colleagues, dear live viewers, ladies and gentlemen. I wish you all a very warm and delightful good morning. It's indeed a pleasure to welcome you all to this auspicious occasion of our 9th National Conference on Digital Transformation for Progressive Business Management, Entrepreneurship, and Social Security. It's heartwarming to look around so many insightful dignitaries and synergetic experts, all brought together despite of this prolonged pandemic for one common cause, that is to explore new edges of this global transition through the theme of this conference. We are really honored to have amongst us for this August gathering 4 eminent esteemed dignitaries who with their expertise, passion, and knowledge made a remarkable impression in understanding this gradual yet inclusive transition in their respective areas of business, research, and academia. Digital interventions now permeate all aspects of human activities. They impact our lives in obvious ways, as when we use GPS-enabled devices, and in much less obvious ways, as the treatment of the digital traces we leave when accessing the internet or using a smartphone. These technologies are creating entirely new economic sectors. For example, the digital platforms instantly match supply and demand for products and services at a very low cost, creating a new demand and new opportunities simultaneously. Yet at the same time, it changes the nature of work by breaking the traditional employer-employee relationship and fragmenting work into series of various tasks together. How can Social Security fulfill its role in this new environment? How can we best ensure that it supports inclusive growth, promotes social cohesion, stability, and resilience? As per the market estimates, the global digital transformation market size is anticipated to reach $1,009.8 US billion dollars by 2025 from $469.8 billion US dollars in 2020. According to the new report of International Data Corporation, despite a global pandemic, 65% of global GDP digitalized by 2022, and direct digital transformation investment is still growing at a compounding annual growth rate of 15.5% from 2020 to 2023, and is expected to approach 6.5 trillion US dollars. By 2023, 75% of organizations will have comprehensive digital transformation implementation roadmaps, resulting in true transformation across all facets of business and society. By 2023, 60% of leaders in G2000 organizations will have shifted their management orientation from processes to outcomes, establishing more agile, innovative, and empathetic operating models. By 2025, driven by volatile global conditions, 75% of business leaders will leverage digital platforms and ecosystem capabilities to adapt their value chain to new markets, industries, and ecosystems. While digital first prevails in every experience, 60% of enterprises invested heavily in digitalizing employees' experience in 2021, transforming the relationship between employers and employees. By 2022, 70% of all organizations will have accelerated use of digital technologies, transforming existing business processes to drive customer engagement, employee productivity, and business resiliency. By 2023, 60% of G2020 companies will build their own business innovation platform to support innovation and growth in the new normal. It's needless to mention that digital technology is creating a platform for more transparent economy and exploring new business opportunities for consumers, companies, and micro entrepreneurs through total financial inclusion and easily accessible communication channels. However, the fullest potential of digital revolution can't be harnessed without dwelling upon the key issues and challenges in this area. There are challenges of consumer trust and adoption, willingness and loyalty, cost of technology, community support, infrastructure, transparency, government budgets, regulations, etc. The theme of this conference thus appreciates the fact that to understand the role of digital transformation in progressive business management, startup ecosystem, and society at large, one must deal with these issues and challenges associated with this area. It is said the best way to have good ideas is to have a lot of ideas together. So today, many of you have made huge efforts to join us and support us in conducting what I hope is going to be a great conference on this globally challenging situation. And so I hope you gain the most from this reservoir of knowledge, which is to be created through the exhaustive deliberations and intellectual discussions lined up ahead. Now, before I hand over for further processing of the day, I, on behalf of the whole BCIPS Chandiwala fraternity, once again would like to extend a hearty welcome. We are deeply appreciative to all of you for accepting our invitation and honoring us with your esteemed presence for making this event a grand success. To conclude, I quote, "You can't manage knowledge. Nobody can. What you can do is to manage the environment in which knowledge can be created, discovered, captured, shared, distilled, validated, transferred, adopted, adapted, and applied by Collins and Parsons," unquote. So I wish you all best of luck. Thank you so very much. Thanks once again for coming. Now over to you, Tanushree.
Thank you very much, ma'am. May I call upon our mentor, Mr. Vipul Gupta sir, to share his words of wisdom with us. Over to you, sir.
I'll greet all with a namaste to all because our audience are across the globe and they are in different time zones. So saying good morning will not suffice. It is going to be good afternoon somewhere and good evening somewhere, right? On this note, I welcome you all to ninth edition of National Conference on Digital Transformations, to BCIP and the team. My compliments to Dr. Aparna Mishra and her team and her predecessors included for creating this platform. Kudos to Dr. Mishra and her team to have brought together the academia from various parts of globe for this edition. With this note, I welcome all distinguished speakers who are spread all over the globe. The very fact this ninth edition of our conference demonstrates the importance of the subject and the way it is continuously evolving. Me and my contemporaries in our early years of computers, we were given to understand the computers were dignified typewriters, or they were typewriters with memory. So we don't really have to redo the work, whatever has been done. And with this kind of comment or the understanding given, we distanced ourselves because there was a specialized workforce who would operate typewriters way back then, were called steno and typists. So many distanced themselves that it is not for us, and we thought computers are only the means to an end. But now, as we see, they are becoming end in themselves. And I'm sure this field has many more surprises for all of us to witness. For me, what the role of a strategist would play is so well addressed by the technology. Access real-time insights, use real-time data and insights to improve responsiveness, quality, and accuracy, delivering greater value to employees and customer. It's all technology with which we can harness exponential technologies, unlock the value from powerful technologies like automation, AI, blockchain, and IoT, orchestrated in service of unique workflow. My only sincere, and I wish to look forward that the deliberations today should not end up in annals of research, but cross-pollinated with industry, and which is going to be of paramount importance in emerging economy like us in India. So with this, I welcome you all on behalf of Shri Banarsidas Chandiwala Trust and invoke blessings from Goddess Saraswati to successfully help us conclude this program. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir, for those valuable insights which have given us food for thought. May I call upon our esteemed chief guest, Professor Vinita Guptan, to deliver the inaugural address. Over to you, ma'am.
Namaskar, everyone. Thank you for having me. I want to start off by congratulating the organizing committee for putting together a very interesting conference, I believe, because if I read the agenda for the day, the speakers, I wish I could have stayed for the entire 2 days. Unfortunately, I can't. But I would also like to thank Mr. Gupta sir, as well as the director, Madam Vice Chairperson, for allowing me to speak in this platform. I want to take what we're going to speak about from a very personal perspective, just to let everybody know that digital transformation is something that very close to my vision for my university. My university is set up to serve the underserved. So moving in the digital space is a challenge that has made me cry many times because You know, every time we make progress, we are thrown 10 steps behind, right? So today I'm going to speak about really, I'm not going to tell you all anything new. I'm just going to share how the digital transformation worked for us. And what was the key to this was really a self-transformation. I had to change, really change the way I looked at things. My senior leadership team had to change. My academics had to change. The students had to change. So it is not really just putting in my infrastructure and everything is going to be magically. It is really quite hard work, right? So before I go on, I just want to wish everybody. I want to invite you into my home. That's really what I wanted to say. Otherwise, I would have been in India, a place I really love, and I go 3-4 times a year. Unfortunately, the last 2 years, I just couldn't make it to India. But so everybody, welcome to my home. I have about 130 people, and it's very nice to have 130 people in my living room, actually. So welcome. So I'm going to move on to just talk about the truth, right? If someone's managing my slide, can we go to the next slide, please? So the truth is we must change to stay relevant. And I know you have heard this many times and many people have spoken about it. But sometimes we need to be very honest with ourselves. And while we can write a research paper about digital transformation, we can speak in conferences about it. But when you ask yourself, have you really changed? When I say change, I tell us to look at whether we have embraced it, right? Sometimes you can change reluctantly. But let's talk about embracing the digital transformation, right? Can we move on to the next slide, please? I'm just going to share about 3 things. One would be my take on how education will no longer exist the way we see it today, right? It will change, and it will change drastically. And the second point that I would like all of us to look at is post-COVID and leadership. How would all of us change as leaders, right? We really need to change how we think. We need to embrace ideas from people who know better. And I think our mentor spoke about the typewriters and having people do work. So we really need to look at the younger generation and learn from change, right? I have 2 children who are in university. And this work from home, study from home didn't bother them at all. But it has bothered me a lot, right? So it's just the way we look at leadership. And the last is, I will be talking to you about some of the areas of transformation that I think is critical and which we have embedded in our strategic plans. Right? Next, please. So if we reframe education, there's always 2 observations, right? The positive is the evolution of new learning methodologies. How do we teach now? How do we get connected? Right? If I'm sitting in a classroom, I can walk up to you and look into your eye and really understand that you're having problems at home because you're not connecting with me in the classroom, right? But speaking to 130 people over small little boxes on my computer screen may not always be the best, right? Because I will be only on 10 people and I have to scroll up to see who is either sleeping or who's left the room. If I had 130 people in a lecture hall, I less can scan the hall. So we really need to reframe the way we deliver our teaching. Then education deconstructed. I came from the era where I did accounting and finance, did my chartered accounting. It was a very, very structured pathway. You know, we didn't have choices at that time. Study plan crafted everything for me, whether I liked it or disliked, didn't matter. But I had to do it all to graduate. But if you look at what real education would be people taking bits and pieces of various things and constructing it together to create your own learning and your own degree can be useful for you particularly, right? And when I studied, education was probably not for everybody. If you wanted to study in Australia or you wanted to study in the UK, you either had to have a scholarship or you had to be very rich, right? And university access wasn't for everybody. But today, I can take an entire degree online sitting at home. So that has really changed access and reach for education. However, on the negative side is very heavy investments, right? We had to invest so much planned for the university this last year and the year before because we needed to change rapidly when COVID hit, right? While we put in the investments, we also had to change learner needs. I started off by mentioning that we are a university that serves the underserved. So most of them come from rural Malaysia, where they don't have access to connectivity, they don't have access to devices, and they can't come onto campus because we are in a lockdown, right? So we had to change the way we reach out to the learner. We had to make copies of our notes and send it via mail or send it back with a runner to where they were in the different villages. And what we also saw was there's this great divide between the rural, the urban, and the semi-urban in their acceptance and their use of technology, right? So in a classroom, we see everybody, we teach about the same things and support the ones who can't catch up. But in a digital space, I can have students who've got very good connectivity, right? And get onto the class. So I have lost out, and the digital divide has become so huge. It is, in fact, very frightening for us. And then the struggle was for the academic to make sense of how do I now teach an entire class and ensure they all achieve their learning outcomes. Because our promise in education is, I will help you, right? So the challenge was now for the academics and the senior leaders thinking very hard how we are going to deliver education. And the expectation from the parents was, you promise to deliver education, whichever way, form, and fashion, please deliver it, right? So these are some of the things that we have to think. We look at reframe education. Next slide, please. So we had to look at a few things. The changes, our purpose, right? Our purpose was to give a good educational experience. But now our purpose is to give a good educational experience regardless of the means that we have to deliver that. Last time it was very easy. They come to university, we teach. You don't come, I mark you as absent. But it's very different now, right? And I have to make, and my colleagues have to make the classes so engaging that people stay in the class. and patterns have changed, right? So because of connectivity issues, we now changed scheduling to teach classes when there are not so many, it's not during peak hours where the internet speed would be much slower. Things that we had to think about. And we also have leaders who don't want to evolve with time, right? So we always tell them, if you don't want to evolve, you could maybe retire and really enjoy your life with your grandchildren, and don't force yourself to be in the system. I think sometimes when people hear it, they think that it's very hard. But actually, if people are not ready to change and you put them through the change, it becomes more painful for them, right? Okay. Next one, please. So there are 7 elements that we embedded in our transformation, but I'll just highlight 3 that we focus a lot on. It's the change orientation, digitalization, automation, and new technologies, which will change the nature of our jobs. Now we have had to rotate people because we now realize that some jobs could be automated, right? I no longer have a personal assistant because I can do everything on my own, right? I don't need someone to schedule my meetings. I just do it on Microsoft Office, Google Meet, whatever. It's quite easy. But what we did was we didn't retrench people. We gave them new skills, use them differently, right? The next one is the learner agility. The pandemic, as I said, has tested all of us. And I must say it has tested my leadership skills. Because sometimes I absolutely to someone face to face, or buying coffee for and talking over a strategy. I could not do that for the last 2 years, but doesn't mean that I would stop running the university. We had to find various ways to do that. So we also started changing the way we operated. We realized that people were getting very tired, because if I can teach for 6 hours and actually enjoy being in class. But if I teach 6 hours looking at the computer screen, I would be exhausted. So we had to change how people thought. We gave people days off in between in the week so that they could rest. Health and well-being was really, really important that we had to focus on. And the third thing that we really focused on was building relationships. So we have online movie nights. We have online treasure hunts. We would buy food and send it over to people's house and say, come, let's have lunch together. And so we wanted people to not really focus about everything just digital and the human aspect is taken out. We've put a lot of effort to sending letters or sending notes, and people were very surprised when they opened their letterbox and they got a note from the Vice Chancellor, and they were like, oh, really? That's really quite nice. So we spent a lot of time doing this, and it did change a little bit. Right? The next slide, please. The next thing we did was invest in technology. It is a must, right? We had to change infrastructure devices for colleagues who don't have computers or laptops, etc. We had to change the virtual experience. We brought in people. We had other university colleagues to help. I worked with some universities in India, in the UK, in Myanmar, even in West Africa, to help us. Because we must understand we're not alone here. and you can't do everything. If I have something I can share with you, use it. Why recreate the wheel? And I tell academics this: if you are teaching accounting, trust me, you're not the only one accounting. There's about 100 over 1,000 people teaching accounting across the globe. Why don't we share content so you don't have to develop everything? So this is the beauty of doing things digitally, right? When I class, I can invite everybody from BCIPS if they want to attend my accounting class, right? And give your lecturer a day off because I teach your class. So I think we all, and this is where academics and really need to change the way we think. I now teach in a program in Spain. So I'm the only lecturer who teaches that particular program in Spain. They offer it once a year and I teach it. So they don't hire anybody there, but they hire me to teach it. So there's various ways to excite the student, excite the academic, reduce their load by collaborating, right? Yuvraj, can I have the next slide, please? This is what we did. We put everything to online and remote. We use apps. We stopped using a lot of video recording because rural Malaysia cannot support videos. So we had podcasts, right? We did various things. We had podcasts, we had short bite-sized notes. So they just listen to it in bits, right? And the collaborations is what I was talking about. We can work with different universities. What we did, which was very successful, was we worked with companies in various states because students have no access to devices. We told them, would you open your office for my students to come and use the computer? And the answer was, yes, we would love to do that. So we had students going into various offices and using the computer. And during this pandemic, we saw everybody coming together to help, which is the best aspect of humanity, right? Better technology. I didn't have to invest in the states because we went and used different offices. People already have the infrastructure. I just borrowed it, right? And digital inclusion. What we did was we got the families involved in the learning. When students were learning and they had a little brother or sister, we said, bring the person towards the screen. And if they were doing an online quiz, my lecturers will teach the little one. So it became a whole family activity when classes are run. And we had the mothers joining, asking, so how's my child doing in school? Things that never happened previously, right? So we always tell people, when you teach, involve the community, involve the family. You see, if you start teaching and you have a little boy who sits and disturbs it is okay. That boy will understand what learning is all about, right? So I tell people, don't scold your students when they have people running around and coming to the screen. It's okay, because that's where they are more comfortable, right? Next, Yuvraj. So when we make these changes, we make changes in ourselves, in our perceptions and values. Next slide will talk about the, Yuvraj, the next slide, please. This is the beauty of technology, right? Next slide, this one, values, influence, and norms. If you see the acronym, these are the three first letters of my name, right? And this is that is a framework that we use even in our strategy, and we have now embedded this in Mongolia, where you hold on to your organization's values regardless what the economic or the environment is like. This is the only thing that's going to help you through any part of your life is your value, right? And everybody should know what the values of your organization are and follow it. Influence, appreciate and recognize everything people do. We must remember that people are not intentionally bad. So every time people do something, find the good in it, right? It may not be up to your standard, but find some good in it, right? And when you do all this, you hold on to your values, you find good in every step that you do in any kind of transformation, it now becomes a norm, right? Then you celebrate successes. Any small thing, at the end of this conference, regardless how it goes, it is a success because we did it. Right? So this is something that I tell people, please always remember VIN, which is VIN, is really, really important, right? You reach the next slide. And we refocus what we are doing. And the last one that I'm going to speak about is the entire transformation framework for our university. Next one, are you right? This is the last slide. And we keep going back to this slide every month, asking ourselves, are we there yet? Right? In transformation. It is digital transformation as well as self-transformation. We look at critical thinking, learning agility, I've spoken about it, digital dexterity, right? How do we use AI and robotics, etc., in what we're doing? Build relationships, we spoke about embracing diversity. We have students and colleagues from different backgrounds, speak different languages in Malaysia, just like in India. We all speak different languages. We have different upbringings, different background. How do we embrace this and make it part of what we are doing? And resilience, right? No matter what, it's not going to be easy. I promise everybody who works with me, working with me is not easy, but we all will come out very, very resilient, right? And the last one is the change orientation. When we look at it, we have an end state, and we keep asking ourselves, if we have all these, how far are we from our goal, right? With that, I think I just wanted to share how we are doing it and how a mindset is really very, very important. Okay. With this, thank you very much. And I hope it was a little bit beneficial. And if you have anything, you could email me at any time and I'll be happy to respond. So thank you again, the organizing committee, for having me. And I'm going to hand it back over to the Madam Chairperson. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am, for those words of wisdom. May I now request our guest of honor, Dr. Alok Chaudhary, to share his valuable thoughts with us. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. I would like to share my screen if that's okay. For some reason, I'm unable to share my screen. Just let me see if I can.
Alok sir, we request you to kindly share your PPT with us so that we can present it on your behalf. I believe sir is trying to rejoin, so kindly wait for 15 minutes.
Can you all hear me?
Yes sir.
Yes.
Okay. Can you also see my slides?
Yes sir, now it's visible.
Okay, excellent. I'm sorry for this. You know, technology has great advantages, but sometimes when you really need it, it has started to play. So thank you very much for having me for this very interesting conference, which is specifically focused on digital transformation with a particular emphasis on business management, entrepreneurship, and social security. What I would like to do, unlike my previous colleague, I would like to emphasize one particular aspect of business, that how digital transformation is changing the face of supply chain. And supply chain is a very big field, and in some industry it has a very, very critical role to play. If you think of COVID-19, for example, that has basically exponentially increased the necessity of supply chain resilience. So what I would like to do is to just give you a little bit of overview of where we are in terms of the supply chain 4.0, which is a new term that's been emphasized after the evolution of Industry 4.0. So very briefly talk about some of these aspects. But before that, I just like to, you know, when I talk to people in India, I like to just talk a little bit about the university, Loughborough University, which is incredibly difficult to pronounce. And, you know, and one of the reasons for that is that it could be pronounced by 49 different ways, and none of those will be wrong. So just to give you a little bit brief overview of Loughborough University, we are based in the Midlands. Midlands is basically, when somebody asked me, oh, where are you based? I said, you know, take the England's map, just put your finger in the middle, and that's where we are. So we are based in Midlands, and if we talk about the university, it had been ranked number 4th in the Guardian University Guide 2020. And to summarize, basically, it's consistently ranked as the top 10 university in every national university league table in the UK. So for the last 5 years, we have been consistently ranked in top 10. In many rankings, we are top 5. And again, with the UK system of research excellence framework, they also rank us among the top 10 university. If I talk about a little bit more in terms of, you know, we are close to 20,000 students, close to 4,000 member of staff, and we have particular emphasis on what we call as, you know, a bronze institutional award for Athena Swan, which is specifically promote women in science, technology, engineering, mathematics in higher education. So with that brief background, I would like to move on to the topic. And About myself, my particular expertise is on supply chain management, and my research has focused on sustainability related issues in supply chain. And these sustainability related issues, particularly now where what we face is around climate change, a big challenge that we are facing at the moment. And a specific aspect of my research has looked at how we can basically decarbonize the supply chain, how we can decarbonize logistics activities. And within that, Industry 4.0 has a key role to play. So when I talk about Industry 4.0, that encompasses a number of technologies, but one particular technology that I have particularly emphasized is big data. So how we can exploit big data and develop decisions that can help managers to decarbonize their supply chain. So with that in mind, some of the content that I have here is basically the work that I have been doing with industry. So what you will see a number of examples, particularly coming from DHL, which is a pioneer in logistics and supply chain industry. So if we talk about the supply chain of the future will be fully digitized. If we go back 1750s, it all started with the first industrial revolution in the UK, then moving on to the second industrial revolution. And slowly moving today where we are using different kind of technology, to kind of improve the supply chain sustainability as well as productivity. At the moment, what we are is the greater emphasis on digitalization in supply chain. So what sort of emphasis that we see in supply chain? So, and it's all driven by consumers. It's all driven by customers. Customers basically needs the product as and when it is needed. It needs at the time when it is needed. They want to have greater product differentiation. They would like to have wider variety of choices. So that creates particular pressure on supply chain managers that how you are going to meet with the demands of the customers, which each of those have several trade-offs to make. But at the same time, you also meet the environmental regulations and ensuring that you kind of put less pressure on your environment that could lead to less environmental degradation. So what is happening in terms of evolution of supply chain, that there's a greater emphasis on business models and solutions. So how you can develop supply chain business model which can bring the customer centricity, specifically how you can better get closer to your customers, how you can understand the voice of the customers. Technology is another aspect which is looking at the innovation. So how you can catalyze the innovation with a cost, particularly where the performance is at a tipping point. When we talk about sustainability, in particular, if you look at the UK, I mean, it's leading the way to sustainability. Particularly, we have got COP27 coming up. Specifically, the whole of the UK economy is moving towards net zero emission. If you look at every day, you get to hear, for example, now UK from next year, UK will ban the diesel vehicles, including the cars. So it's all driven by the climate change agenda and the sustainability. So what is specifically happening in those spaces, that how digital transformation is promoting different aspects of sustainability. So it's not just the environmental aspect, but also the social aspect of sustainability. And ultimately, extremely important, the role of people. So we could be fully digitalized, but still the role of people is increasingly important. When we try to work in a what we call as robotic environment, how people can better work with machines, and that sort of human-machine interaction, how we can particularly achieve that. So this sort of evolution that has emerged. So when we talk about the logistics trend going forward, what do we see? So again, this is borrowed from DHL Innovation Center. We did a bit of work with them, particularly looking at how different sort of looking at three different scenarios. One is around impact, that how particularly application that has impact to revolutionize the supply chain. So when you look at the two sides of this radar, what you see is the low impact, and then other side, what you see is the high impact. So high impact is essentially related to revolutionary applications that are potentially disruptive. So when we talk about those nowadays, when we talk about those, a specific emphasis has been placed on, particularly in the logistics sectors, around mass personalization. about packaging, about omni-channel logistics. Big data analytics has a big role to play. Internet of Things, robotics and automation, artificial intelligence, and quite a lot happening around self-driving vehicles. If we look at the technological trends, specifically around what we call as rapid prototyping or 3D printing, yesterday I was talking on regarding a project with a colleague on how we can particularly emphasize the visibility and traceability using blockchain in food industry, because that's a major challenge. You don't know where your products are coming from, what sort of processes has been applied in your product, what is the ingredients within the product that you have. So ensuring that blockchain technology is increasingly important to improve the visibility as well as traceability of the product. And again, when you go about traceability, that also ensures that the social dimensions of sustainability is achieved, particularly if you have a particular product coming from developing or underdeveloped world. Then whole range of, we quite a days at the moment, we hear quite a lot about Amazon's like a space journey and a space logistics. Those are important, but these are kind of low impact. Low impact leads to evolutionary changes with incremental improvement. So, a space logistics, particularly, for example, there's quite a lot happening around servitization. So these sort of trends highlight that where we are really heading to in terms of digital transformation, and how that those sort of different key elements of digital transformation is improving both productivity and sustainability of supply chain. So when we look at the COVID-19 we have recently faced, and what sort of trends have emerged as a result of COVID-19. So when we talk about those, a lot is happening, particularly around final mile delivery. Now, again, when you talk about final mile delivery, that also relates to last mile delivery, how you reach to the end consumers, right? So there is exponential increase in the final mile delivery. There has been a lot of, in terms of delivering to those customers, omni-channels have increased. Data analytics has played a key role in generating insights, in generating forecasting on inventory optimizations, and all sort of issues related to that. So what we have been able to achieve after COVID-19 is a number of areas where emphasis has been put to deliver the customer in a best way, and increase the service requirements for the customers. So if you look at this diagram, particularly when we talk about the digital transformation in the logistics sector and how that underpins different dimensions of sustainability, whether it's economy relating to productivity or profits, environment particularly related to issues around climate change, and society, particularly issues related to wage and health and safety of the workers. If you look at the digital enablers need to work together, particularly around technology, the processes, the organization, and the knowledge. When we talk about different sort of technologies being used at different stages of supply chain, so what you see here in the middle is, say, for example, you have got the initial suppliers based somewhere in China. Then you have the tier 3 suppliers coming back, say, for example, in different part of the world, let's say Malaysia. And then you have got tier 2 and tier 1 suppliers based in the countries like UK and so on. And then from there, you are delivering to different sort of customers. And those needs to be interconnected. Those needs to be interrelated into their decision making. So what you see here is the different technological applications at the bottom, whether it's in the form of augmented reality, machine-to-machine communication, robotics, artificial intelligence and big data, cloud computing, increasingly important, drones. Again, talking about drones has been increasingly used now. There is a talk with the DHL at the moment that how drones can be better used to deliver the parcels that currently is being delivered by vans and so on and so forth. But there are various challenges around trust issues, various challenges around consumers, what you call as confidentiality issues, and so on. Internet of Things and sensors communications and so on and so forth. So what you see here is the enablers in the form of different technological applications, but at the same time different characteristics of digitalization that further then leads to achieving different dimensions of sustainability. There are 6 different pillars of supply chain agility and flexibility, as you can see here. A specific focus on resilience and risk management. And when we talk about these, a specific focus is on how digital transformation could achieve resilience and risk management in supply chain. And things around big data, for example, has been heavily used by companies like like DHL to manage their risk, and they have a specific software, say for example, called DHL 360, that basically maps that where is the problem happening in the supply chain. Say for example, if there is an earthquake in say for example, different part of the world, maybe in Thailand, if there is an earthquake, or if say for example there is a flood in India, some part of India where they have their warehouses, how you are able to understand how those activities or how those incidents happening in different part of the world could impact your supply chain. Or for example, if there is a fire in one of their suppliers' factory, if you remember last month we have a very big incidents happening in Bangladesh. Now, how those incidents are having in the impact of supply chain. Again, a couple of months ago, Suez Canal episode was a major example where the ship was basically the freight transportation ship was in the Suez Canal, and none of the ships were able to cross it, and it took them about a month to basically clear that. So that has significantly disrupted the supply chain for many companies in the Western world. So what you see here is if we look at the growth in terms of the last few months, it has exponentially increased in terms of e-commerce. What is as a result needed, if you look at this is the diagram coming from DHL, the service order growth that has exponentially increased, and digital transformation is playing a key role in helping these customers. And this is just an example of collaborative robots, that how collaborative, I'm not sure if I can play the video to show how increasingly robots are used and in fact being replaced, replaced for humans to activities such as palletizing, where the tasks are repetitive. So for example, I talk about a Cadbury factory based in Birmingham here. If you go there, what you will see here, previously, those chocolate trays were basically put in the pallets by humans. Now it's fully automized. It's all replaced by robots, which are performing their tasks But what is increasingly important is that robot in itself cannot really fulfill the mission, and therefore the greater interaction between robots and humans, and that's where it comes the role for a greater ability among the workers so that they can effectively use the robots. Again, big data playing key role. If you think of the big data, at every point the data is collected from the consumers, and that helps the companies put the consumer first, right? So leveraging technology, whether it's the mobile devices, just to give you an example, it's in everyday life. Last night I was in a restaurant and I ordered for example, naan bread, and the moment I ordered the naan bread, that was kind of the order was delivered in the kitchen, and my wife, for example, she said, well, actually, I want to change the naan bread to a different kind of bread. And by that time, it was just a matter of fraction of seconds. It was difficult to change the order because of the fact that it has already been delivered. So what you see here is the digital transformation happening even in simple restaurants but that comes at the cost of flexibility. So you cannot be too flexible in that respect. Again, this 73% of the CEOs that you see here consider big data analytics as the most significant information technology for their supply chain. At each and every stage of supply chain, you gather data, and that data could be used by applying sophisticated machine learning techniques to generate knowledge that can help at each stage of supply chain to better make decisions, to achieve better productivity, to achieve better sustainability and profitability. Not going into the details of this given the time constraints, but this is the journey that's journey of big data analytics. Specifically, when we go back, initially we're talking about just analyzing the past data to understand what happened, but then understanding diagnostics analytics, applying diagnostic analytics to why did it happen. If I talk about 10 years ago, the focus was predictive analytics that can we predict the future. About can we forecast, can we analyze the data to predict what is going to happen. But now what we are looking at is the foresight, where specifically we are talking about by the data that we have, how can we make it happen? How can we learn from the past to make things happen in the future? So again, given the constraint of time, I will escape some of these elements. But what I would like to emphasize is on humans are more critical than ever, as emphasized by the previous speaker. Yes, robots are replacing humans in many industries, particularly this industries which needed kind of repetitive tasks, which needed, say, for example, mass production and so on and so forth. But that also raises question about the future of skills. What sort of skill do we need to achieve the requirement of supply chain for 4.0? So digital skills are extremely important. You have got to manage the expectations, and particularly as we move to the gig economy, creative thinking is more important than ever. Previously, we used to talk about IQ. There is EQ, which is what we call as, particularly emotional intelligence is more needed than ever before. And what we see here is the COVID-19 has particularly emphasized the role of emotional intelligence. The cobot experience, that how human can basically work collaboratively with robots to achieve the task. And again, as I said, data analytics, I mean, that's a field that is growing at an exponential rate, and big data analytics is the future. So with all these, don't forget about the creative thinking that's coming from humans. Don't forget about the problem solving techniques that is kind of, difficult to achieve by the current system we have with robots, and more importantly, emotional intelligence. With that, I would like to thank you for listening to me. Any question, I very much welcome.
Thank you very much, sir, for sharing your valuable thoughts and experiences with us. May I now request our technical team to play the virtual address, sharing the insights of our guest of honor, Ms. Jacqueline Arnold.
Thank you, distinguished colleagues and guests of the 9th National Conference on Digital Transformation of Business, Entrepreneurship, and Social Security. My name is Jacqueline Arnold. I'm the Director of Strategic Relationships for Saylor Academy, and I'm very grateful to the distinguished professors and planning committee of Benisardis Chodowala Institute of Professional Studies for inviting Saylor Academy to participate, and honored to join you all with pre-recorded remarks. I understand that today's sessions will be geared toward digital transformation in business and industry. However, in order for those transformations to be supported and successful, education and skills training must be delivered in ways that can scale and pivot quickly. Skill gaps are already present in many ways, whether on the supply side in education, where a shortage of available training seats is expected to be in the millions by 2025, or on the demand side, as many countries are reporting shortages of well-skilled or trained labor. This past February, businesses in India reported an inadequate supply of skilled workers to fill positions needed. Educators and business leaders should be equally concerned. What is needed to close these skill gaps? Digital materials that are high quality, easily revised, updated, and shared, that are constructed in a rigorous way and can be deployed at a low cost. These materials are called open educational resources, and I'll provide an overview of one such model of their use at Saylor Academy and how it could be impactful with your institutions. Open educational resources, or OER, are resources that can be freely edited and shared without concerns of a copyright. These resources are specifically licensed to be shared and distributed by their creators and are available in any medium. Due to their collaborative nature, using OER supports sustainable skill development by increasing access to high quality resources at a lower or at no cost. These resources can be revised and improved upon over time. Saylor Academy is a nonprofit organization that offers free, self-paced courses online that promote higher education and career skill development goals. Saylor Academy uses and creates OER to build these courses and offer them through the Saylor Academy website. Saylor provides certificates and, in some limited cases, pathways to university credit. We have learners worldwide, some seen here, that use their certificates to create paths to new jobs or promotions. Our courses in professional and skill development include management topics, technical skills such as spreadsheets, as well as 21st century skills, including decision-making and critical thinking. The broader catalog includes Python programming, JavaScript, project management, and small business management, which is an ideal course for entrepreneurs. Saylor uses our free open courses to help partner organizations and individuals achieve skill and higher education goals. These courses are built and peer reviewed by university professors, further ensuring their quality. Universities use us to offer skill development opportunities as well as additional pathways to complete education for their students, staff, and faculty. These are a few examples of our partnerships in India. We are also pleased to be able to partner with BCIPS very soon. Additionally, we are a knowledge partner as part of NSDC's eSkill India platform. This platform offers digital skills and training to youth all over the country. We encourage inquiries from interested organizations who may share a wish to promote access to education within their communities and help us to continue our work. I would like to leave you with this quote from one of our students who was ultimately able to use our courses to create a path for himself and earn a university degree. If we, like Krishna Raj, are determined, we can partner to create new models in sustainable education and skill development to close skill gaps for anyone, anywhere in the world. This, in turn, will transform business, industries, and entrepreneurship. I thank you for your time and your attention.
Ma'am's address has given us some valuable food for thought. May I now request our esteemed guest, Dr. Christopher Abraham, to deliver the keynote address. Over to you, sir.
Good morning, everybody, or good day, everybody, since you're in different parts of the world. Just give me a minute so I can load my presentation on, and then we're good to go. Just give me 1 minute. Can you see my screen? My PowerPoint?
Yes, sir. It's presenting now.
Okay. Reimagining our world influenced by digital transformation. Can you, ma'am?
No, sir.
Not
Your
yet.
slides
Okay.
are not.
No, wait. That's the reason why I asked that question. Just hold on a minute. You know, Google Meet is always tricky. By the time you stop sharing, let me again go back. Okay, so the window doesn't work. Now, can you see my PowerPoint, ma'am?
Yes, sir. Now it's visible.
Reimagining our world influenced by digital transformation. Right. So once again, good day to all of you and warm greetings, literally warm greetings from Dubai. We have a 40 degrees centigrade heat today. And but nevertheless, it's warm as in the metaphoric and in the real sense. Thank you very much, BCIPS, for inviting me to this very interesting conference. Some excellent perspectives that we've heard right from the morning. And let me try to add some flavor to the conversation. And before I start off with the presentation per se, I want to share with you a real incident. Some of you may be familiar with this. So in the year 2015, in Tokyo, Japan, there was a lot of fanfare and celebration for inaugurating the world's first robots-only hotel. So everybody was quite excited about it. And as we heard our esteemed speakers earlier, the world is virtually now with Internet of Things and robotics and big data and data analytics, so on and so forth. I would even say we are overwhelmed by digital transformation. And things were going right from the check-in. Your check-in is done by a robot. You're led into your room by a robot. And to add excitement to the whole experience of a robotic hotel, you even have a robot placed inside your room for any specific preferences and requirements you might have. In the year 2020, something very interesting happened. The management decided to terminate 50 to 55% of the robots and replace them with human beings. This, by the way, is a real story. So I want you to keep that in mind. And guess what? The reason why they had to take this very serious decision was that robots at the end of the day were robots. And I'm going, but the culprit or the villain in this whole story was the robot placed inside the room, which was programmed, quote unquote, with the right kind of algorithms to take care of all the needs of the guest staying in that room. But they are artificial. The intelligence is artificial. And as a result, they didn't understand many of the nuances of human communication and were doing a lot of things that the guest never wanted. In other words, the guest experience was very tainted, and they had to shift that to 50-50, or even, in fact, 55% human and 45% robots. I think there's a big lesson in that story for all of us, that how it's not just, I think sometimes what happens is we get carried away by this digital transformation. In fact, my presentation is going to share with you a number of these dimensions. And what has also happened in the last 2 years, or rather 1 year and 8 months, thanks to COVID-19, is the rapid exponential growth of digital technologies that has happened not by choice, but more by circumstances. So these technologies, I'm sure you're familiar with, from blockchain to robotics to energy storage to genome sequencing, which is a big area at the moment, and of course, the mother of it all, artificial intelligence. And industries are converging. Now, Professor spoke about a beautiful academia-industry partnership with the university and DHL and how these things are converging. You also find multiple industries coming together. And in a world, and he ended, I loved the final comments that he made, which made us realize that we're still human. Creativity, empathy, emotions, emotional intelligence. So where this new kind of convergence is taking place, we need to be extremely careful that we don't just get carried away by technology. Science fiction is becoming science fact. What we used to think of as impossible, like going to the moon, going to Mars, is today, what if we can go? And we're answering many of these questions. Healthcare, one of the biggest developments is happening in healthcare. From personalized DNA sequencing to microbiotics, there are a whole range of revolutions happening in the field of healthcare. You can even have your entire gene sequenced for less than $100. And from vertical farming, right, which has now become a huge, and if you come to a place like Dubai, which is a desert. You have the example of vertical farming, and a bunch of Indian entrepreneurs have set up a 200-acre farm in the middle of a desert using artificial intelligence, vertical farming, combining aquaponics and hydroponics, and a revolution 24/7, 365 days of the year. You get fresh produce in the middle of a desert. That's the revolution that technology can bring in. And robots, as Professor mentioned, within the warehousing distribution environment, this is becoming, and as he rightly said, these are mundane, mechanical, routine, boring jobs. So I think it's nice when a robot can replace and give human beings the power to be creative, the power to, imagine, the power to design, the power to dream, so on and so forth. Drones again, drone delivery. In fact, Domino's has made this a very special, system of delivering by drones. Amazon is, doing it. Of course, the question of privacy and security are still there. But I presume that in India, a couple of days back, there was a very interesting shift in the national policy on drones. Right. So the future is very unlikely to be a lot like the present. So it's never. In fact, when we say the new normal is very different from what we have. We heard Professor from the first speaker that where she spoke about revolutionizing education. And very interesting, because their challenge is how do you reach out technology where technology can't reach? And that's some very interesting models that emerge. So we need to focus on what is, which is the current, and then prepare for what might be, right? So that's the mindset that we need to have in order to look at the present and then prepare ourselves for the past. Here are some major shifts that are taking place within the field of digital transformation. And we'll go one by one. Cognification. So computers are becoming increasingly intelligent. Cognitive computing combined with quantum computing, along with big data, is going to be a huge combination and convergence of technologies, which is going to revolutionize the way we do things in the near future, which is 2 to 5 years from now. Virtualization. Thanks to the pandemic, we have now found interesting ways by which we can make learning fun. So we have brought in the element of mixed reality, augmented reality, virtual reality, put them together. Some of you may be familiar with Microsoft HoloLens and similar technologies. Robotization. So where something can be automated, robotized, let's do that. And where required, we may need to even augment. Augmentation, which is adding new values and new systems within the existing frameworks. And this is the HoloLens that I spoke about, which is a revolutionary product that can help. And we at SP Jain School of Global Management, just to give you a context, we use many of these technologies. In fact, SP Jain School of Global Management, I'm just going to contextualize here, is a history-making school. We are a 20-year-old school with a heritage from India, footprints in Dubai, Singapore, Sydney, and Mumbai, Australian accredited and globally ranked by Financial Times Top 100, Forbes Top 20, Forbes Top 10, Economist Top 100, and more recently, Wall Street Journal and Times Higher Education. The way we were able to do it was to merge the elements of learning agility, as Professor spoke, and linking it with the latest cutting-edge technologies. We are, of course, fortunate in all our places that there is a wide reach for the technology. And one of the technologies we use is advanced augmented and virtual reality, combined mixed reality. And this has been a game changer for us. When we teach subjects in business, you can definitely use these technologies. Now, here's a very important thing. Transformation is not about technology, because normally we say digital transformation, we immediately think it's about technology, but we believe it's also about the mindset. The mindset of the human being to embrace novelty, to embrace change, to embrace growth, and at the same time, remain deeply human. So that's very critical. And the culture is the culture that pervades within an organizational context and institutional context. So DT, digital transformation, is not just about technology, it's also about human mindset and human cultures. So some game changers within. I'm going to share with you quickly. Now, all of this, many of you are familiar, big data, cloud, Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, quantum computing, blockchain, 3D printing, multiple realities, and genome editing. So this is going to be the convergence of multiple technologies, which would be how the future will be looked at. So as human beings, we need to observe, we need to understand, we need to imagine, and we need to transform, because data is the new oil, artificial intelligence is the new electricity, and the Internet of Things is the new, ironically, the new nervous system. Our post-COVID business, as usual, is dead or dying. So that's a reality. So we have to frame new ways by which we can innovate, by which we can change, by which we can design, think, and make ourselves relevant. Now, this is interesting. All said and done, with all the machines and all the artificial intelligence, I want to pause for a moment and give you a context. A lot of us get carried away by this term artificial intelligence. At the moment, if you ask me, 2021, month of August, last week, artificial intelligence is currently in a stage called artificial narrow intelligence, ANI. ANI means that machines can do a lot of remarkable data crunching and fast-forward jobs, but they still can't do a number of things which human beings can do, which is good, I believe. So we retain our jobs. And the next level of AI growth is what we call artificial general intelligence, AGI. And AGI means that's the singularity that a lot of IT professionals talk about, where humans and machines are equal, which I don't know how good it is, because that's kind of dangerous. If machines can think and do things like us, what relevance do we have? The third one, which I think is the scary part, is artificial superintelligence, which means machines are more intelligent than human beings. And that's where the challenge comes. But at this point, I want to remind all of us, I'm not scaring you. So the reality is that we are still human. There are a number of amazing human qualities. The human brain is still the most complex organism in the entire system. It's not the supercomputer or the super fast supercomputer. They call it Fugoku in Japan. The human brain is still much more sophisticated, with 1.4 trillion neural connections happening every second. So we are still smart. We may not realize it. So I want you to keep that, that message of hope that the human brain is still amazing. The future is going to be a combination of human intelligence and artificial intelligence. The human intelligence would come with other very interesting components like empathy, like ethics, values, emotions, dreaming, the power to dream and imagine, the power to design, and the power to reimagine a future which is inclusive of every person on the planet. Because machines can be ruthless. And I'm sure many of us know this, that even in algorithms, AI-driven algorithms, there's a whole range of bias which creeps in from our own human cognitive biases. In fact, there's a recent documentary on Netflix which talks about how algorithms are so biased because they are originally, most of them are written by, and I'm quoting from the film, from the documentary, these are male, Caucasian, white people from Europe and North America, which means there is a certain environmental influence on these algorithm writers that biases against women, biases against other races, right? And that's dangerous. So I think the future needs to recognize this. Hollywood has made it terrible. What Hollywood has done is given us a mixed understanding of, it has exaggerated. In fact, the movie Lucy, I presume, yes, was a whole wrong movie. It said that if Lucy could use 10% of her brains and all that nonsense, we actually use 100% of our awesome God-given brain. So, Hollywood can be messy when it comes to sharing this information. So, intelligent assistance, artificial intelligence, and what I shared with you, artificial general intelligence, could be an existential threat for us. And we need to be cognizant of this impending threat, right? So that's why we have AI for conscious business, AI for social relevance, so on and so forth. algorithms can outperform human intelligence when it is not about understanding emotions, intentions, interpretations, consciousness, self-awareness, also known as androrhythms, or I'd even like to call them humorhythms. So in a day of algorithms, we need to also understand the power and impact of humorhythms, intuition, emotions, creativity, imagination, ethics, empathy, consciousness, values, mystery, compassion, and I can go on, awe, right? Joy, happiness, a whole range of things which are deeply human. Data and information is not knowledge. It is not understanding. It's not wisdom. It is not purpose. Data is data, pure figures, statistics, right? So that's what we need to understand. Don't give too much of, let's say, undue emphasis on that. Everything should be as smart as necessary, but not smarter. And I know what I'm alluding to. Smart homes with smart equipments now overhear our conversations and do things which are very scary. I would be very, very wary of putting any smart home devices in my home, because if it's going to monitor 24/7 what I do inside the privacy of my home, I'm not comfortable with that. So the same holds good for smart cities and smart other things. Look at these four things. Assisted intelligence, good. Let's take it. Automation, very good. Augmented intelligence, equally good. Autonomous intelligence, we don't want that, right? And of course, there are exceptions to it in terms of autonomous vehicles. But you may have heard that a few weeks back, Waymo, which is a Google-inspired autonomous vehicle company, one of its cars had a major challenge in one of the highways. It completely went bonkers. And that was scary, right? So autonomous intelligence still needs to be planned. Right, so humanity, futures, digital ethics. It's if these things happen, then how do we face them? So we need to ask these critical, crucial questions to ourselves. We need to have these conversations. Let's not get enamored by technology. Let us ask the relevant ones. Why are we doing it? And for who are we doing it? These are very important so that we don't lose the human aspect of things. So we need to have, like we do our cost benefits, we need to do a benefits and risks analysis on exponential technologies, negative consequences, and the benefits, and then see which ones would be the most appropriate for us to go forward. This, by the way, is a framework designed by the World Economic Forum. So if you go to World Economic Forum, you can find this framework and use it. Let's also remember, too much of a good thing can be a very bad thing. This was said many ages back by our forefathers. So government monitoring, supervising, regulating, users must make informed choices. And industry leaders, I wouldn't just say must be accountable, must be made accountable, right? So they can't get away with snooping into our privacies and security issues. So that's critical. They have to be accountable. Right. So we've seen different dimensions of this. Let me quickly move on to the last few thoughts. Privacy is a huge thing, friends. And let's be honest, the moment you are online, in fact, they say you don't even need to be online. As long as you have a smart device, 24/7, your data is being monitored. It can be tapped into. Remember the Cambridge, apocalypse that took place during the presidential elections, thanks to Facebook. So I think it's time to rehumanize our media, which is social media, technology media, and rehumanize digital transformation. We should never ever forget the human element in all of this and get overwhelmed by technology, because technology is not what we seek, but how we seek it and for whom we seek this. So this might be an interesting idea. Digital Ethics Council, which should be an equivalent to the United Nations or should be part of it. And we need to have something like this, which addresses bias prevention, I spoke about it, disclosure, collective governance, human autonomy, explainability, accountability, complementarity, transparency, diversity, and privacy. And this is so critical that now there's a huge need for a chief ethics officer in every leading organization by the end of 2025, which is just 4 years from now. The more we connect, the more we must protect what makes us human. So it may be exponential technologies, convergent technologies, combinatorial that combine different things together, holistic, it may even be circular, which addresses the challenges of the future, where we have messed up on climate change, circular economies, but most important should be what is human. The new business models should also focus on how we need to drive towards the future, not just driven by technology, but driven by the human element. Last few thoughts, works and jobs. We are going to increasingly work with these characters, the robots. So 2018, 29% machine, 71, increase to 42% next year. And 2025, it'll be 52% machines and 48% human. We need to have very important conversations. Should we look at universal basic income? Should we look at alternative mechanisms by which you can upskill, reskill our people? Should there be a continuous process of learning, unlearning, and relearning? Future is exciting. I wouldn't say it's scary, but we need to be prepared for all eventualities and prepare humanity to push forward. You would have this phenomena happening in many of our universities. You will see our students going out and doing gigs rather than working for a company. They may work morning 4 hours for one company and then take a snooze in the afternoon, a siesta, and then in the evening they work for another company. And this is projected to be a huge opportunity for everybody. So the giggers need not just be young graduates. It can also be work from home moms. It can be other people who feel that they want to take time off. They don't want to work on a full-time job. So increasingly we're finding this trend happening. So non-routine work is the future, at least in advanced economies. This is statistics from US, but I'm sure that you could see this in other places also. So that is a very interesting thing. So education, and that's where we all come in. On one hand, STEM, so science, technology, engineering, math. And as you may be aware, we now talk about STEAM. We need to add that. But again, let's not forget humanity, ethics, creativity, and imagination. This has to combine with the STEAM subjects that we teach our students. And here's the thing. It's no longer binary. It has to be multinary, which is again a word coined by us. Okay, simulation and existence. Simulation, the computer part, existence, the human part. And then look at these things. Purpose. What's our purpose in life? The why part of it. Curiosity, to ask questions. Why? Why not? What if? How might we? Foresight, to dream the future. Critical thinking, because what humanity dreamt a few decades back is now becoming reality. Science fiction becoming reality. Critical thinking, which again was alluded by a professor from UK, right? And then imagination, the power to imagine, which is very human, and the passion to get things done. Passion combined with grit. So I think the future business model should be something called sustainable capitalism, which does not only talk about shareholders, it also talks about, it talks about stakeholders, which include the entire planet. It talks about the people. It talks about purpose and prosperity, which is an offshoot of profits. And I think we need to move towards that. And let's be honest, the future is much better than we think. Today, the biggest danger is not that machines will eliminate us. And this is the biggest danger, that we become too much like them. So embrace technology, but don't become it. And while I want to say thank you, I want to also say, let's remember we're still human. So the little things like gratitude, appreciation, mindfulness, forgiveness, happiness, joy, collaboration, cooperation are still very much part and parcel of who we are. I want to thank BCIPS for giving me this wonderful opportunity. I congratulate everybody who put their efforts to make this happen, getting people from all over. This is another advantage of digital. You see, if you had to do it face-to-face, some of us would have reluctantly disagreed and said, hey, I won't be able to make it. But thanks to digital technology, that's possible. But let's remember, we're still human, and we need to retain our humanness and humanity. Once again, thank you very much, and God bless all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for those very interesting words of wisdom. I'm sure our audience would have learned a lot from your address. I would now request Dr. Dipali Saluja, Conference Co-Convener, to present the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Tanushree ma'am. Honorable Vice Chairman, Shri Vipul Gupta ji, respected Director, Dr. Aparna Mishra, eminent speakers, our most valued invited guests, academicians, dignitaries, people from industry, faculty, and staff of the Institute, and our loving students. I take this opportunity as an immense pleasure to extend a vote of thanks on this great occasion. I, Dipati Saluja, on behalf of the BCIPS family, extend to you a very hearty vote of thanks for gracing the event and sharing vision and experiences. We are honored to have the presence of Professor Dr. Vinita Gupta ma'am, our chief guest, for consented our invitation and coming here and gracing the event by sharing her rich experience. She brilliantly explained about digital transformation and self-transformation. She focused that as per the need, we must change. She reconnected the leadership to purpose and explained the win, that is, values, influences, and norms. Thank you so much, ma'am. I thank Dr. Alok Chaudhary, our first guest of honor, who took out some time from his busy schedule and spending that valuable time with us. Thank you, sir, for coming and gracing the event by your presence and your expert speech on supply chain 4.0 through digital transformation that explained that how the future of supply chain would be fully digitized. Thank you so much, sir. I thank Ms. Jacqueline Arnold, our second guest of honor, who couldn't join the session due to some unavoidable circumstances, but sent her virtual address on the scope of digital transformation, for which she highlighted that the gap should be bridged up by the skilled education. I thank our keynote speaker, Dr. Christopher Abraham. I thank him for accepting our invitation and for his presence in the conference. We are thankful to him for his valuable address on reimagining our world influenced by digital transformation. Thank you, sir. Thank you all. Thank you very much. I would also like to thank our Director, ma'am, Dr. Aparna Mishra, and Vice Chairman, sir, Mr. Vipul Gupta, for his able guidance during this conference. Undoubtedly, it has added a tremendous value and provided a great insight to all. I take this opportunity to extend our most sincere thanks to all our guests invited who have come from different parts of India to make it a big success. Thank you all. Thank you very much. Over to you, Tanushree ma'am.
Thank you, Dipali ma'am. We will now break for lunch and begin our technical session 1 at 2 p.m. Thereby, I request all of you to please join due time. Thank you.